I've never told anyone what I'm going to tell you. From the time that I can remember, I suffered from anxiety. I had fears that I knew nobody else had. Like, how could I be depressed? I have a great life, I have a great family. You know, I understand suicide. I understand why someone would take their life.
So I was born without my right foot, and my condition is 1 in 2 million people. So it's not very common at all. I'm what is called a Symes amputee. So I have all my ligaments, my bones, and muscles. I'm just missing my foot because it didn't fully develop. And there's actually no reasoning behind why that happened. There was like a lot of different things I did when I was younger, and I did like multiple sports at once. Like it wasn't just one sport at a time, and it was a lot. I was getting exhausted, it's mentally exhausting, even just being, you know, an 11-year-old kid doing all that activity. I was sustaining a lot of injuries in soccer, and track was starting to really take off for me. This was like right before I made my first Worlds team in 2015. It was time to pick one, and track was something that I really wanted to pursue and I thought I had a lot of potential in. I've come a long way from going on those basketball tournaments every weekend and playing on those soccer teams, and it was just like really great memories to have, and I'm really glad that it went the way it did.
If you had asked me 10 years ago how I'd be known in Canada, I would have assumed it was because of some major legal case or some major thing that I'd done in my professional legal career. I never in a million years would have thought people knew my name based off of running. I fell into running, I loved it, but it was always a means to an end. Law school was always the goal. I'm one of 7 kids. Someone had to pay for school. If I ran fast enough, I could get a scholarship. So running paid for school. I found out I passed the bar exam right as I was boarding my flight to go to Chicago to run Chicago Marathon. Something that was supposed to be really cool and really awesome. But it was a few months later, I got talked into going to Kenya and trained like a true professional runner for the first time ever, and came back and just missed the 2012 Olympic team by the skin of my teeth. And it was not making the Olympics that then told me I was good enough. And so a year and a half later, I set a national record. I didn't want to be told I wasn't good enough anymore. And when I ran, there was no argument. I was one of the best ones around. And I was drawn to that, just the freedom of it.
I was so lucky that I was a failure in everything else. The only thing I ever wanted to do when I was young was be on television or radio talking about sports. But I never thought you could do it. Like, how do you get a job like that? So I made up this whole story about how I was painting houses for a couple of years, and I got into Ryerson, and that you know, for me was a chance for the first time in my life to dive into something and to be able to say, hey, you know what? There's something for me in this world. There's something that is just mine, that I can embrace, and it changed my life.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael Landsberg, the host of TSN's Off the Record. On this,
I started at TSN when TSN started.
Our philosophy at TSN is to bring you sports events, both live and on tape, and to keep you abreast of the latest up-to-date news from the world of sports.
I got to be this person that no one had ever been on television before, because I'd never been on television, but I had the freedom to be me.
hey, boy, can you let me in?
Yeah, try to put your...
Whoa!
No. Now with our mustache.
I never saw myself as a failure. I saw myself as a person that had never really been challenged, engaged. I had never found that thing I wanted, and broadcasting saved me. When I was young, from the time that I can remember, I suffered from anxieties. I had fears that I knew nobody else had. And I never talked about them. I never mentioned anything. The word anxiety never came out of my mouth until later in life. And the reason is that I didn't know there was an illness anxiety. All I knew was that I have these feelings I don't think other people do. I think that just makes me weak, right?
And so I'd kind of like hide in my little corner, like just do my own thing and not really talk to a lot of people.
And I was just so unwell, physically, mentally, emotionally.
I just really wanted my family. Like I didn't have my family, and I wasn't able to really talk to anybody about it because I didn't want them thinking that I was like affected by it.
It played a big role in my life, but I never dealt with it. I never talked about it. I just kind of went on with it.